Welcome James P. Clements, President of Clemson University and Chair of the APLU Board of Directors.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the 128th Annual Meeting of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to Indianapolis. As you all know, the theme of our annual meeting this year is Delivering the Future, which is very fitting because that is exactly what we do in higher education, isn't it? We are delivering future leaders for business, industry, education, arts, science, and humanities. We're delivering future talent to the workforce. We're delivering the research and the breakthrough innovations that will improve the future of healthcare, the environment, agriculture, transportation, construction, and technology. As public and land-grant universities, we are delivering economic and community development that will impact the future of the states that we call home and will improve the quality of life for the citizens of our states. We come together for this meeting each year to learn from one another, to help one another, and to collaborate as we continue to improve higher education across the country. While our schools might be competitors in some ways, we are all working towards the same goals: providing our students with the best education possible, conducting research that will make a difference in the world, and serving the public to make our communities, states, the nation, and the world stronger. So thank you all for taking the time to be here so that we can learn from you, because everyone here brings their own unique expertise and wisdom that will help us to think of how we can do an even better job of delivering the future. I know some of the greatest minds in higher education are sitting right here in this room, and I would like to introduce one of those great minds to you at this time, Mr. Peter McPherson, President of APLU. Peter joined APLU in 2006, bringing with him a wealth of experience in higher education, government, and business. Prior to joining APLU, he served as the president of Michigan State University for 11 years. Before that, he served as executive vice president for the Bank of America, as deputy secretary of the U.S. Treasury, as administrator for the U.S. Agency for International Development, and as special assistant to President Gerald Ford. He is the chair and co-founder of the Partnership to Cut Hunger and Poverty in Africa. And he is the chair of the board for Harvest Plus, which is an organization working to breed crops for better nutrition. He also serves on the board of trustees for the Gerald R. Ford Foundation. He has received numerous awards, honestly way too many to list, both for his outstanding professional career and his incredible humanitarian work, including a U.S. Presidential Certificate of Outstanding Achievement, the Secretary of State Distinguished Leadership Award, the Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton Award, the UNICEF Award for Outstanding Contributions to Child Survival, and honorary doctorates from Michigan State University, Virginia State University, and Mount St. Mary's College. The list of awards and honors goes on and on. He received his bachelor's degree from Michigan State University, his MBA from Western Michigan University, and his JD from American University. During his career at APLU, he has helped to lead the development of several key initiatives, including project degree completion, the Student Achievement Measure, and the Voluntary System of Accountability. Under his leadership, APLU has become known for its advocacy work with Congress and the presidential administration in order to advance federal policies that strengthen public research universities. Besides all of that, he is simply a wonderful person. Please help me welcome to the stage APLU President Peter McPherson.
Well, thank you, Jim. I didn't realize you were going to do all that. I appreciate all of you being here. Jim has done an outstanding job as chair of the board of APLU this last year, and we and the staff appreciate his enormous support. I'd like to have us all take a moment of silence for those that died in Paris, including Noemi Gonzalez, a student at California State Long Beach. Let us do so now. I add my welcome to all of you being here, and thank you for those Indiana institutions that were so helpful: Ball State, Indiana University, Purdue, IUPUI, in helping to put all this together. 20% of you here are attending your first meeting, but that also means another 1,000 of you attending have been here before, some of you many times, including members from Canada and Mexico. As was said, this is the 125th anniversary. This year is the 125th anniversary of the Moral Act of the 1890s. These are the schools that help provide and continue to provide critical higher education for African Americans. Later this evening, we will celebrate the distinguished alumni from each of the 1890 institutions. The theme of this year's annual meeting is Delivering the Future, as you've heard a couple times. The theme is built around APLU's 3 pillars. 1, increasing degree completion, increasing academic success, including better preparing a more diverse student body. 2, advancing cutting-edge research. 3, expanding engagement to help solve the problems of our community, our country, and the world. Let me stop here and provide a few words about what's been happening around the country. As public universities work to expand the number of students that attend college, a primary purpose of our institutions is to provide access to quality higher education for all, regardless of means, background, race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. To that end, a core value of public universities is an environment that's open, safe, and inclusive, so that a student can, with good instruction and their hard work, learn and grow. An inclusive environment involves students having a sense of belonging and being respected as members of their community. Fostering their environment is a never-ending and purposeful effort of university leaders and the whole community. This is a very demanding but critical task, with new students coming every semester and a changing world now including social media. A companion and overreaching value of public universities is also to foster a vigorous but constitutional and respectful speech. Our campuses are where one person's belief is often met by another person's conflicting belief, is where issues of deep passion and division can and should be debated. But debates are only effective when all sides can be heard and considered, as our communities seek knowledge and better understanding of ourselves, each other, issues in the world. Universities have a unique responsibility to protect free speech, especially when ideas are unpopular, and to encourage all views to be expressed and heard. If this exchange of ideas cannot happen at our public universities, then where can it happen? I am confident that public university leaders hold to these core values of working to create an open, inclusive, and safe environment for the student to grow and learn, and also the core value of fostering vigorous, constitutional, respectful speech in which all views are not only presented but also heard. These core values should complement each other, though they can be challenging, as we all know, for university leaders and their communities. But as always, public universities can, and I believe will, work through these issues for today, and we will build the future. I would now like to introduce President Michael McRobbie of Indiana University. Michael?
Well, thank you very much, Peter. It really is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to Indiana and to the great city of Indianapolis for this year's annual meeting of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. We're delighted that now for nearly 50 years, the Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis campus has been located just blocks from the Indiana State House in the state's capital and from a downtown that really has grown and blossomed remarkably in recent years. This fall, the APLU campus welcomed approximately 30,000 students, a measure of our extensive educational presence here in downtown Indianapolis. It is a statement as to the importance of the wide range of issues that you will be considering that there are more than 1,300 senior leaders of various institutions of higher education here today. This annual meeting is just one of many ways that the APLU supports 240 member institutions as they pursue their missions of teaching, of research, and of service. The mission of public research universities like Indiana University puts great emphasis on the public, not just on public support, but also on a public mission. This public mission includes educating students for citizenship and preparing them for public service. It includes contributing to advances that enhance the quality of life for all. It includes making major contributions to the economic development of local communities, states, and the nation. And it includes a public way of conducting inquiry and debate that has been crucial to the development of civil society and to modern science. The same pressures and expectations that originally led to the passage of the Morrill Act more than 150 years ago and the subsequent establishment of land-grant institutions are now expectations of all research universities. Today, all major research universities, especially publicly funded institutions such as Indiana University, have an obligation to the citizens of the state to address the great challenges of our time. Towards that end, for example, we recently launched what we call our Grand Challenges Research Initiative. We will invest at least $300 million over the next 5 years to fund a small number of research projects that address some of the world's most pressing problems, some of the most pressing problems of our time, problems whose scope spans institution and disciplinary boundaries and whose solution requires new knowledge, new tools, and new treatments. Public institutions like Indiana University also offer equality of opportunity, and they have always sought to make available to subsequent generations opportunities that extend the public good. Through their public mission, they exemplify the democratization of education in America. Research and creative activities at the nation's public universities are also associated with increased growth and incomes in their surrounding regions through students who have received their education in a research-rich environment, through new enterprises and new ideas brought into existing businesses, and through the pervasive culture of innovation they help to foster. As the theme of this year's conference suggests, the nation's land-grant and public research universities are indeed delivering the future. We are very pleased and delighted that you have joined us here in Indianapolis, and we hope that your time here will inspire ways for our universities to deliver the future that are yet unimagined. Now, would you please join me in welcoming the Chancellor of North Carolina A&T State University, Harold Martin. Thank you.
Good evening. Let me also welcome you to the APLU annual meeting as well. It's my great pleasure this evening to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Juliet Bell, who is chair of the Council of 1890 Land-Grant Institutions. Dr. Juliet Bell became the University of Maryland Eastern Shore's 15th leader in its founding in 1886, and the fourth woman to hold this post on July 1st, 2012. Dr. Bell has developed a reputation as a hands-on teacher, researcher, and administrator, And as a faculty member, she encouraged thousands of students to pursue STEM careers, a number of whom went on to pursue the PhD in representative disciplines. As president, she proudly leads a 4,500 student institution where roughly half of the graduates are just like her, the first in their families to earn a college degree. And she credits her late parents, who emphasized the importance of education, with instilling in her a work ethic that has served her well as an adult. She graduated #1 in her class, earning a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Talladega College, received her PhD in chemistry with a biochemistry concentration from Atlanta University, now Clark Atlanta University, and did postdoctoral work in biochemistry at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Following her postdoctoral research, she worked as a senior staff fellow and research biochemist and biologist at the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences and Research in the Research Triangle Park, where under the guidance of Dr. Thomas Kunkel, a senior scientist there, Bell studied an enzyme responsible for linking together the billions of building blocks that make DNA, the genetic code. She was one of the first to identify ways to manipulate that enzyme to measure its ability to make DNA accurately under a variety of natural and environmental conditions. This work is important in understanding genetic orders and diseases such as cancer. In 1992, she accepted an appointment as a chemistry professor and director of the biochemical area of research at Fayetteville State University. Bill advanced quickly through the academic ranks at Fayetteville State University and became director of the biomedical research program there as well. She served as its founding dean of the university's College of Basic and Applied Sciences and provost and vice chancellor for academic affairs. Following a short stint as interim provost at Winston-Salem State University, Bell was named chief academic officer at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio in August 2009. As president of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, an 1890 land-grant institution, Dr. Bell again currently serves as chair of the Council of 1890 land-grant universities. She is passionate about her work. Please join me in welcoming to the podium my friend and colleague, Dr. Juliette Bell.
He's a little taller than me. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure as president of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and chair of the Council of 1890 Universities, as well as co-chair of the USDA 1890 Task Force, to have this opportunity to be before you this evening to talk about the 125th anniversary celebration of the Second Moral Act that created the 1890 land-grant universities. First, let me thank Peter McPherson and APLU for this opportunity for us to highlight the work of the 1890 universities during this annual meeting and to talk about this wonderful year of celebration that we have had as we have gone through the year celebrating our 125th anniversary. Before I get started, I would like to ask all members of the 1890 University family, whether these are presidents, faculty, staff, students, or alumni, if you would just stand and be recognized in the audience. Thank you so much for all that you do on behalf of our universities. As you know, in 2012, we celebrated the 150th anniversary of the signing of the first Moral Act of 1862, which established the land-grant universities in all 50 states with the express mission of providing instruction in agriculture, military tactics, home economics, and mechanical industries for all people, especially the sons of toil. If you recall our history, you know that in 1862, the United States was embroiled in the Civil War between the South and the North around the issue of slavery. At the end of the Civil War in 1865, there was still refusal on the part of many Southern universities, including the land grants, to admit Negroes. Thus, institutions sprung up throughout the South and the border states with the express mission to educate Black citizens. These institutions would later become known as historically Black colleges and universities as a result of a federal designation, or HBCUs. In order to provide for Black Americans to have the same opportunities as whites, the Second Morrill Act was signed in 1890, establishing the designation of land grant status to HBCUs. In establishing this act, Senator Morrill is quoted as saying, and I quote, "Having emancipated a whole race, shall it be said that our duty ends, leaving the race as cumberers of the ground to live or to wilt and perish, as the case may be? They are members of the American family, and their advancement concerns us all." Thus was established a group of HBCUs designated as 1890 land-grant universities, or 1890s as we like to be called. The 1890 universities are 19 HBCUs located in 18 states, primarily in the southern United States. The founding of 13 of these institutions actually precedes the signing of the Second Morrill Act, with the first of these, Lincoln University, being founded in 1866. Collectively, the 1890s have provided access to educational opportunities for countless thousands of students across the country for over the last 125 years. Annually, these institutions enroll over 100,000 students, mostly undergraduates and predominantly African American. A majority of these students are low income, Pell eligible, and about half of them, as you heard in my introduction, are like myself, first generation college students. Our role in providing access and opportunities to many who would otherwise not have been able to obtain a college degree is as critical today as it was in 1890. That happens to be my beautiful campus, by the way, in that photograph. And these are data from 2003, just to give you a snapshot. The 1890 universities continue to be major drivers of success for African Americans in this country. Although we represent less than 0.5% of all higher education institutions, it is clear that the 1890s have a significant impact on Black professional and educational success, particularly in the science, technology, engineering, agriculture, and mathematics, or STEAM fields. The 1890 universities are top producers nationally of African American STEAM graduates. Here are some statistics on the 2014 top degree producers among all universities, as reported by Diverse Issues in Higher Education and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. North Carolina A&T State University is the #1 producer of baccalaureate degrees in engineering. Fort Valley State University is #1 producer of mathematics and statistics BS degrees. Tuskegee University, #1 producer of agriculture. Prairie View A&M is the #1 producer of architecture. And Florida A&M is the 4th overall producer of African American baccalaureate degrees in all fields combined. Among doctoral degree producers, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore is the #1 producer of African American marine science PhDs, and Florida A&M University is the #2 producer of African American professional doctorates in all disciplines combined. These data show that the 1890 universities are playing a critical role in developing an educated, diverse, highly skilled, and innovative workforce prepared to tackle the global challenges facing this nation and the world. We are delivering the future. The research of the 1890 universities is varied. Today, the 1890 universities continue our mission of teaching practical agriculture, science, mechanical arts, and so forth to uplift our communities, but we also teach cutting-edge areas such as engineering, health professions, aviation sciences, and cybersecurity. We engage in innovative research that is focused on global challenges such as climate change, renewable energy, food safety and security, environmental sustainability, and economic viability. Collectively, the 1890s have led the way in innovation, discovery, and outreach, while also serving as economic engines for our regions. Our major partner in this effort has been the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in particular NIFA. Through our USDA 1890 Memorandum of Understanding and our annual federal research capacity appropriations, about $140 million annually has helped to develop our university's research capacity and ability to deliver practical education and training to our students and engage in innovative research at our campuses. Additionally, funding from the USDA has allowed us to leverage additional funding opportunities through other federal agencies such as NSF and the NIH, as well as through state and private sources. Although each institution is unique, our research focuses on several cluster areas. These include enhancing sustainability, competitiveness, and profitability of U.S. food and agricultural systems, adapting to and mitigating the impacts of climate change on food, feed, fiber, and fuel systems, supporting energy security and the development of the bioeconomy for renewable energy resources, providing means to ensure a safe, secure, and abundant food supply for the United States and the world, addressing improvements of human health, nutrition, and wellness of the U.S. population, and heightening environmental stewardship through the development of sustainable management practices. These are just some of the areas on which we focus. Now that you know a little bit more about the 1890 universities and what we do, I want to turn back to the past year and our celebration of the 125th anniversary of the signing of the Second Morrill Act. This year has been marked by a number of memorable events, and I would like to recognize and thank two people who were very instrumental in planning those events. If Mr. L. Washington Lyon and Dr. Carolyn Brooks are in the room, would you please stand? They served as co-chairs, so let's give them a hand. They served as co-chairs for the 1890 anniversary planning committee, and they did a fantastic job. These are some of the events that highlighted our 125th anniversary year. If you were here last year, you know we kicked off our year of celebration with a documentary that identified many of the aspects of the 1890 universities in film, and we were able to show that here at the annual meeting. This year, we also had a number of important events that we held, the first of which was the 1890 Day celebration held on April 23rd, featuring celebratory activities at each of our institutions, including a 1.89-mile wellness walk. Each participant paid $18.90 to participate. And we got a number of people who didn't want to walk, but they supported students to walk as well. And the funds went to establish the Justin Smith Morrill Endowed Scholarship Fund. We also had a wonderful opportunity as presidents to testify before the U.S. House of Representatives Agricultural Committee. This was the first time in history that the 1890 university presidents had been invited to speak before a hearing on Capitol Hill. We celebrated 1890 Day on the Hill, featuring displays from each of our institutions and manned by our students. That was a big hit with many of the congressmen who stopped by to see it. The culminating event was our commemorative convocation that was held on July 16th at the Library of Congress, and it featured an address by USDA Secretary Thomas Vilsack. After that event completed, we had the great fortune of having the Senate pass a resolution that declared August 30th as 1890 Land Grant Institution Quasquicentennial Recognition Day, in recognition of the actual day on which the act was signed, August 30th, 1890. And each campus held a 1890 National Day of Prayer activities. So this is 1890 Day at UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and these are all human beings making up the 1890s. We had over 600 people, community members, students, faculty, staff, participate in our walk, and it was led by our pep band, so it was a wonderful day on campus. This picture shows the presidents testifying before the House committee. 6 presidents were invited to testify. However, we had 18 of our 19 presidents present during that hearing, so it was certainly a historic day. Today, during the Council of 1890 Universities luncheon, APLU honored 19 recipients of its inaugural 1890 Universities Career Exemplar Awards. We wish to thank, first of all, the Educational Testing Service for their sponsorship of this award and for making it possible for the awardees to be here in person to receive their awards. As part of our commemoration of the 125th anniversary of the signing of the Second Morrill Act, it gives me great pleasure this evening to be able to present the awardees to you. The recipients, distinguished alumni, representing each of the 19 historically Black land-grant universities, have achieved excellence in navigating their career pathways and providing mentorship to other traditionally underrepresented students pursuing similar career pathways. The awardees were nominated by their alma maters and evaluated on their commitment to their institution, individual achievement, civic engagement, and impact in providing access, opportunities, and mentorship to current students and new alumni. So I present to you the recipients of the 1890 University's Career Exemplar Awards. Mr. Billy Bridgeforth, Alabama A&M University. Dr. Jesse Harness, Alcorn State University. David Turner, Delaware State University. Doris Hicks, Florida A&M University. The Honorable Calvin Smyrie, Fort Valley State University. Donald C. Hilton, Sr., Kentucky State University. Sherman L. Lewis, Langston University. Charles E. Seeney, Lincoln University. Willie A. Deese, North Carolina A&T State University. Ernie Collins, Prairie View A&M University. The Honorable James Clyburn, South Carolina State University. Dr. Leodre Williams, Southern University and A&M College. Olga G. Hudson, Tennessee State University. Dr. Mortimer N. Newville, Tuskegee University. Pearlie S. Reed, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Dr. Emmanuel T. Aqua, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. Walter F. Johnson III, West Virginia State University. Dr. Antonio C. McLaurin, Virginia State University. And Mr. Marquino A. Okuti, Central State University. Thank you. As we culminate our celebration, to the end. As we culminate our celebration of the 125th year of the signing of the Second Moral Act, I want to thank you all for your support. We are the 1890 Universities, and we are delivering the future. Thank you so very much. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Mitch Daniels, President of Purdue University.
Let me add my own words of warm welcome to those of my friend Michael McRobbie, and tell all of you how proud we are to host this meeting here in Indiana on behalf of our fellow public universities, but also the rich tapestry of almost 50 private schools who are here. You have come to a state that respects and reveres higher education. It's reflected in one of the nation's largest student assistance, state student assistance programs. It was reflected, and here much credit goes to Michael's advocacy and that of others, in the third highest continued or sustained support for higher ed spending among the states during the recent economic difficulties. So you've come to a place that welcomes you this day and any day that your travels might bring you here. I'm privileged to be able to bring to the microphone another longtime advocate for public education, even though she is now in just her first official post in our sector. She's a lawyer who came to her current job after consecutive roles as a governor and at a cabinet level federal post. What a bizarre background. What were they thinking? I don't know, but I know what you'll be thinking in a few moments after the presentation that you'll now hear. You will be thinking how very fortunate California is and Californians are to have, at a time of great challenge, have as their current president of the University of California, Janet Napolitano.
Well, thank you, President Daniels, and thank you for the warm welcome. It really is an honor to be here with you all in Indianapolis this evening. And I want to just pause a moment before I begin my prepared remarks to express my support for the people of France in the wake of the terrorist atrocity that occurred on Friday, and add my personal condolences to Cal State University and CSU Long Beach, who lost a student on Friday evening during the attack. I am pleased to see so many representatives from APLU's 237 member institutions here this evening, including quite a large California delegation. And I'd like to join in congratulating President Bell and her fellow leaders of the 1890 land-grant universities on the 125th anniversary of the Second Moral Act. Really one of, between the first Moral Act and the Second Moral Act, I think that we have seen just those were great steps forward during the 19th century for higher education in America. So again, President Bell and your fellow presidents, congratulations. Now, I've been asked to spend my time with you tonight addressing the theme of this annual meeting, delivering the future. Specifically, the ways in which our public universities are delivering the future on education, research, and community engagement. Now, I could focus my talk on the word delivering, I could describe all the advances in online education, the different models for ensuring that our students graduate on time, or how we as public universities can grapple with the challenge of delivering a quality product when no one apparently wants to pay for it. These topics, I'm confident, will receive lots of attention during this meeting. So I'd like to focus my speech on the word future instead. The word future is actually derived from a participle of the Latin verb to be. It means essentially what is to be or what will be. And it suggests questions like this one. What are we? What are we to be? What will we be? And I think those are the kinds of questions that are worthy of our time as we lead the institutions that make up the APLU. And these questions are fundamentally Socratic in nature, because to answer them is to gain greater self-knowledge. So I'd like to turn a Socratic lens on the public universities that make up our organization. To the question, what are we? I would say this. Public universities are microcosms of the society we serve. Our institutions are home to vast numbers of students, faculty, and staff who hail from every background, every income level, and every corner of this country. Among other outcomes, that scale and that diversity often spur a desire to give back and to make a difference on behalf of others. And we call this phenomenon public service. And at APLU institutions, public service is a rich vein running through the bedrock of teaching and research. Many of the students at the University of California, for example, see public service as a hallmark of the education they receive at UC. We are the nation's largest contributor of alumni who have served as Peace Corps volunteers, more than 11,000. And nearly 50% of all of our students participate in community service during their time at university. Let me narrow it down to one group. 10 years ago, Hurricane Katrina struck the city of New Orleans. And one of the first universities to respond to the disaster was UC Berkeley. And while many university students traveled to New Orleans in the immediate aftermath of Katrina, Berkeley is one of the few universities that committed to stay for the long haul. The UC Berkeley Magnolia Project is named for one of the New Orleans neighborhoods hit hardest by Katrina. From the beginning, UC Berkeley's commitment to New Orleans through the Magnolia Project was for 10 years. So throughout the last decade, the Magnolia Project has sent more than 600 UC Berkeley student volunteers to participate in recovery efforts. Students are connected with various New Orleans-based community organizations and spend time in the city through both immersion trips and longer summer internships. As of today, they had devoted more than 75,000 service hours. They have rehabilitated damaged homes, partnered with a local group that assists ex-offenders, and worked with the young people of New Orleans to improve public schools. There's a lot of talk in our country right now about what it means to be college ready. But I'm not sure we spend enough time talking about what it means to be college educated. You see, I think students go to our universities to get a great education through the knowledge and skills they gain in classrooms and labs and through homework and discussion groups. But they also go to our universities because they are seeking the skills that will help them translate their classroom education into opportunities to make a difference in the world after graduation. So the issues UC Berkeley students face in New Orleans are often the same ones they study in the lecture hall or the library. Students interested in food justice, or sociology or education or philosophy can see those issues at work in a real community. And they gain the hands-on experience they need to make a positive impact in many more communities in the future. Yes, public universities prepare their students for jobs, but they also prepare them for life, and they prepare them for the giving back that makes life meaningful, not only to the individual, but to society as a whole. So moving on to the question, what are we to be, or what will we be? I would say this: our universities are and ought to be living laboratories for new ideas and new solutions. Our physical campuses provide a means for society to test new innovations in things like urban planning or building design, and our communities provide a means for society to explore complex questions and to address pressing global challenges. An example: 25 years ago, President George H.W. Bush signed the American Disabilities Act into law. The ADA remains the most significant civil rights legislation for people with disabilities in this country. The bill prohibited discrimination and ensured equal opportunity for anyone with a disability in employment, government services, public accommodation, commercial facilities, and transportation. For decades, disability advocates across the United States had worked to pass a bill of this magnitude, and one of those advocates was a man named Douglas Martin. Martin was born in Nebraska in the late 1940s. When he was 5 years old, he contracted polio. He spent 2 years in an iron lung, and he spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. As a teenager, Martin earned a major scholarship to a university in the Midwest. But when he showed up on campus for orientation, the sight of his wheelchair surprised university officials. You see, at the time, that university required a physical examination as part of the admissions process, and he failed the physical exam, and his admission to the university was revoked. He said later, "I made a vow then and there that I would pursue my education and use it to make sure this would not happen to anyone else." So he moved west. He enrolled at UCLA. In a few years, he had earned a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate in urban affairs. He became the first person with a disability to be named a UCLA Chancellor's Fellow. So after Martin fulfilled the first part of his vow, he turned his attention to the second part. For years, he fought for the passage of civil rights legislation. He fought for the creation of rigorous accessibility requirements in California. He fought for a revision of Social Security laws that halted benefits to people with disabilities when they were employed. He fought for most of the provisions that are now enacted into public law through the ADA. He fought, in other words, for the rights of those with disabilities to live and work as full participants in our society. In 1990, Martin was one of the advocates who witnessed in person the signing of the ADA at the White House. But he didn't stick around long in D.C. He had more work to do in California. The UCLA chancellor hired him as a special assistant to oversee the actual implementation of the policies and regulations he had worked so hard to champion. When Martin took that job, 75% of UCLA's buildings were inaccessible to people with disabilities. That changed. From access ramps, handrails, curb ramps, to amplifiers, braille signs, evacuation chairs, note takers, and counselors, Martin oversaw every step in the ADA compliance process. He was one of the experts that people turned to, said one of his colleagues, but not only on the UCLA campus, but nationally. His laboratory for the ADA was here at UCLA, and that laboratory produced results. For anyone who knew Martin, the outcome was not surprising. He not only transformed UCLA into the accessible campus it is today, he transformed UCLA into the community it is today. When Martin began his position, there were under 250 students with disabilities at UCLA. 7 years later, when he stepped down, that number had increased to more than 1,000. Our universities ought to be places where thinkers and researchers and advocates push new ideas, new innovations, new ways of serving our society. In my view, delivering the future means keeping alive the spirit of Douglas Martin and those like him and infusing our campuses with their sense of energy and purpose. So it's not enough to ask what our institutions will be. More broadly, we must also ask, what do we want our society to be? And what can our universities do to help make that society a reality? So Douglas Martin showed us one way of making the society we want a reality. Through the Living Laboratory of UCLA, he helped address the problem of how people with disabilities treated. A woman from UC San Diego can show us another way to build the society we aspire to be. This woman tackled another problem, the problem of too few women and underrepresented minorities in science and engineering. And that woman's name was Sally Ride. More than 30 years ago, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space. That's why we all recognize her name. And she would also become an inspiration to countless young people who wanted to pursue their dreams of becoming astronauts or scientists or engineers or researchers, but who did not see role models who looked like them. Ride wanted to make a difference on this front. As she said in the late 1980s, quote, "Kids are very smart. They can see that most scientists are white males. If the message we give, however subtle, is that English or nursing would be better for those kids to go into, then those are the fields they will choose." At the NASA press conference on her space shuttle assignment and the flurry of coverage that took place over an American woman going into space, Ride said, "It will be a wonderful news when this just isn't news." She looked to her own life to determine how she could help make sure news like this was not news in the future. She knew that when she was selected to be an astronaut, the one person she most wanted to call was her high school science teacher, who had been an important mentor. She also knew that once she retired from NASA, she wanted to return to a university environment. So she took both of those insights and used them to shape her life's work. She joined UC San Diego as a professor of physics, and she founded a company called Sally Ride Science, which sought to encourage K-12 students to pursue careers in science, engineering, and math. Through both of those efforts, Ride helped begin to build a different future for thousands of young people from all backgrounds who were interested in the sciences. Just last month, there was some new news about Sally Ride in California. The focus was not on her selection as the first American woman in space. It was instead on the opportunities she worked so hard to give all young people until she passed 3 years ago. As of October, Sally Ride Science, the company she founded, has become an official program of UC San Diego. And UCSD will now carry out the vision of Sally Ride through extended STEM outreach to young Californians, including the young women and underrepresented minorities Ride wanted to see someday as astronauts and scientists and engineers. I know I speak for all of us when I say that we at the APLU want a society where the future generations of scientists and researchers are drawn from the broadest possible pool. And here is where our APLU institutions play a pivotal role in making that society a reality. They do so by educating vast numbers of young people from all backgrounds. They also do through the people who research and teach at them and the legacies they leave, people like Douglas Martin and Sally Ride, plus the programs and outreach that's been created and the communities that have been fostered. But making our society, the society we want to be, a vigorous and just one, is no easy task. Our campuses are often living laboratories addressing problems that are old and seemingly intractable. In fact, some of our society's most trenchant problems, problems like sexism and racism, have never disappeared from college campuses. They remain acute and they deserve urgent attention today. For example, it's not the issue of sexual assault that has attracted the attention of Congress and the press. It's the issue of sexual assault on college campuses. So we cannot pretend these problems do not exist. Instead, as university leaders, we must acknowledge the problems. We must listen. We must experiment with approaches to solving them. And then we must help move solutions forward. Now, I've led both a state and the third largest and most disparate department of the federal government. I can say that the role of the modern university president closely rivals those positions when it comes to the range of responsibilities, the variety of stakeholders, and the public importance of the mission. But at the same time, university presidents and the institutions we lead possess unique opportunities to combat the challenges that our society as a whole faces. The American system of public universities is one of our country's great contributions to the world. They have transformed the tradition of knowledge creation and transmission, a tradition reaching back to Socrates himself. We lead institutions that can both identify problems and generate unprecedented solutions. And we must demonstrate the will to do so because public universities represent perhaps the greatest hope we have for creating an equitable, resilient, and dynamic future for our society. We meet tonight more than 2,000 years and 5,000 miles from the Athens of Socrates. But a much-loved son of Indianapolis once invoked the Greek philosopher with a wink and a nod in a book he wrote. That writer, Kurt Vonnegut, describes some lines of graffiti that a narrator in one of his novels saw, which paraphrased the philosophy of Socrates into this sentence: "To be is to do." The rest of the graffiti, by the way, attributed the phrase "doobie doobie doo" to Frank Sinatra. Now, Vonnegut's tongue may have been planted firmly in his cheek, but the phrase "to be is to do" is an apt maxim for the member institutions of the APLU. Our public universities are defined by what they do. They are microcosms of our society. They are living laboratories for our society. And they represent the best hope for our society. Hope is the future we deliver. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those wonderful comments. We're now going to open it up to the floor for questions. If you have a question, come on up to one of the microphones located on the side aisles. And I'm going to start, Janet, with the very first question. It's really a two-part question. So if you were asked to give remarks on public universities delivering the future 3 years ago, before you were a university system president, and while you were a federal cabinet member and as a former governor, how would that speech have been different than now? And how has your experience leading a university system changed your understanding of what it means for public universities to deliver the future?
Yeah, I think for those of us that have come into higher education from different backgrounds, you know, when you're a governor, you do work on higher education issues to some degree. It's one of the reasons I was interested in going into higher ed, because it was one of the things I found most enjoyable when I was a governor. But I don't think you really understand it till you're actually in the seat. And for example, I'd never heard the phrase shared governance before. So that was a bit of an adjustment for me. If there's one thing I have really come to appreciate, and is that we just, as public universities, cannot take for granted that the public loves us and will give us every dollar we ask for ad infinitum. That's not the reality we are in, and we have to think about how we continue to do our job and to be accessible and affordable and deliver a quality product in different ways. And I know all of us in this room, I'm not saying anything new when I make that statement, but as someone coming into higher ed from outside of it, I don't think I had a full appreciation of the transition that higher ed, and particularly public higher ed, must go through. And I think as leaders of higher ed institutions, we have to help lead that change, because we should lead it or have it foisted on us.
Okay. All right, we have a question here on the side.
Certainly. In the 21st century, should universities be known for whom they include or whom they exclude in terms of allowing students in?
Well, is that a philosophy question?
It's not for credit.
I think that we are public universities. We operate in different states with different systems, and you know, the systems are divided out separately depending on, you know, in California has the master plan. They probably have something here in Indiana, et cetera. The question is, however, do young people who are in middle school and high school understand that they have a road ahead to higher education, and that there may be a different way to get there, or different portals? In California, for example, 30% of the students at the University of California will come from our community colleges. So they'll come to us through, you know, via a different track than just starting as a freshman. But the idea is, to the extent we can, to be inclusive and to recognize the diversity of the populations that we serve in our states.
All right, looking out. Next question.
It is so dark out
It's dark.
there.
We're having trouble seeing. Don't be shy. We have time for a couple more questions. You have a wonderful opportunity here to get some discussion going. I think everybody wants to get to happy hour, but before we let them...
I'm standing between you and a glass of wine, and I understand that position.
I'm going to ask you one more question while we see
Sure.
if anyone else wants to. Drawing on your past experiences, what do governors not fully understand about universities? And what do universities not fully understand about the challenges facing governors? Two-way street.
I think, and I'm not the only former governor in this room, I think what people don't understand about governors is that they have innumerable competing demands on their time and on their budgets. I think the other thing we as universities can do is help understand what governors want to prioritize or succeed at, and see if we can marshal the resources of our universities to help. For example, Jerry Brown is very interested in climate change. And we have hundreds, if not thousands, of researchers in the UC system working on various issues related to climate. So we just did a summit on carbon neutrality a couple of weeks ago in San Diego, and the two keynotes were the governor and myself, and it was really an opportunity to show how a university could actually help the governor achieve his goals. So having an appreciation of that. I think from the governor's side, looking toward higher education, I think it is too easy to view it as it's just a cost center, and it becomes a number, and you got so many numbers flying at you that you lose sight of the students that are represented by that number and the other things that universities can do. You know, there's a phrase in economics. It's called opportunity costs. You know, opportunity costs is what you can't do if you're doing something else. And sometimes I think that when the focus is only on cost, as if all cost is the same, as if all cost is somehow waste, which it is not. It is investment. I think what happens is when we focus only on cost and not the long term of what a public university produces, we lose that word opportunity. And I think hope is what we deliver. We do it through providing opportunity, and that gets subtracted from the equation too easily.
Excellent. Thank you for your time tonight. How about another round of applause?
Thank you.
I see one more. I see a question up front. Peter, I'll repeat it for you after.
But with your former role as a governor, the role of the federal government, you have a particularly good perspective on the state-federal partnership. With the state's diminishing role in higher education, the federal government increased role, really in some ways a substitute. Is there any way we can have, what's your recommendation as to a different, a new state-federal relationship partnership? Is there a way that
Did you want to repeat the question?
in effect, the federal government money should in part be tied to a commitment of states to continue or not to decrease their role?
So the question is if you think about kind of the implied compact that existed among the federal and state governments where higher education is concerned, is there a new compact or a new set of agreements that should be found? I look at it much more broadly than that. I think as public universities, we're going to have to increasingly advocate for not pure taxpayer dollars as the sources of the funds we need, or tuition. I mean, which is the other part. We have to increase philanthropy. We have to increase intersection with the private sector. I mean, there's a lot of work we can and should be doing right now. But this notion that if we don't get the public dollars, we'll raise tuition without anything else, I think that model is gone. And we have to be, and that's what when I say we are in a period of intense evolution. That's part of the evolution I'm talking about. I believe there are some things the federal government should be doing right now. I believe the federal government should increase Pell spending and have summer Pell, for example. That's a straightforward thing. I believe that states should be reinvesting in institutions of public higher education, at least to get back in some form or fashion to, if not at pre-recession levels, something at least trending in the right direction. I believe our obligation is to be able to say, and in exchange for that, we are going to do the following, and we're going to educate increasing numbers of students, and we're going to do a lot of things that will return back to the state. Now, we've been saying that for a while. I mean, I've been going, and when I took this job, I started going back and reading speeches that have been given here and at other institutions of higher education and associations of higher education. We've been saying that we'll do that for a long time, but we haven't really done it. And I think that the time is now for us to really push forward on many of these fronts.
Excellent. One more round of applause, please.
Good. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, to conclude our program, I want to introduce Dr. Paul Ferguson, president of Ball State University. Dr. Ferguson has been president of Ball State since August of 2014. Prior to that, he served as the president of the University of Maine, provost and vice chancellor for academic affairs at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and vice president for research and graduate studies at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. We are excited to be here with him in his home state of Indiana. Please welcome Dr. Ferguson to the stage.
Well, good evening, everybody. It is just a real pleasure to add my welcome to Indiana. I am the newest member of the leadership team here that has really experienced Hoosier hospitality, which I hope you all will enjoy over the next several days. Presidents McRobbie and Daniels have certainly given it to me, and I am deeply appreciative of them bringing me and enjoying the higher education landscape in Indiana with a very strong and rich tradition. Ball State brings to that about 100 years of contribution to higher education in Indiana. We're just getting ready to celebrate our centennial based on a legacy of beneficence and entrepreneurship of the original Ball brothers who brought higher education to central Indiana. And 100 years later, we're committed to entrepreneurial learners through architecture and planning, telecommunications and media, based in a teacher's college, the College of Business and Entrepreneurship, and certainly our new and emerging College of Health. It is so appropriate, I think, as we've heard tonight, the juxtaposition of the Moral Act and the comments of President Napolitano on hope and opportunity, where vision meets opportunity and impact. If you consider what happened in the original Moral Act, many folks have considered that that was the most significant moment for democracy in our history, when higher education became a means and a vehicle. And if you've been like me the last couple of weeks sitting in your office on your campus, you have really been wondering, where are we going? How do we deliver a future? I hope that you will agree with me that the 15 years that I've been coming to APLU, the opportunity for inspiration and insight and conversation with colleagues who are going through the same thing I am, those 15 years have always been a recharge for me and an inspiration, an insight, and wisdom. So the next couple of days, particularly under a theme of delivering the future when we have some of the most significant questions of our time in our fields, I encourage you to take advantage of it. where vision can meet meaningful impact. So we're so glad to have you in Indiana. I know Hoosier Hospitality will be there for you. And so in my last official act, I'm pleased to close our welcoming ceremony and invite you to attend the reception in ballrooms 1 through 4. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the meeting.